This is an ABC News special report. Now reporting, David Muir.
Good afternoon, I'm David Muir. We are following breaking developments at this hour. We come on the air after a school shooting at Saugus High School. This is Santa Clarita, California, and you're looking at the pictures there that have become all too common in this country. The evacuations afterward, the students being taken away from the school. We do know at this hour there were 5 victims, all students at the school. We are told by the LA County Sheriff's Department at this hour that the alleged shooter is in custody and is being treated at the hospital, believed to be a member of the student body there. We know that this all happened at 7 a.m. local time, which we believe is the hour before classes start. This is typically when band classes or extracurricular activities are taking place, or study sessions before the actual school day begins. So shortly after 7 a.m. local time, again, you're looking at pictures, aerials coming in at this hour from Saugus High School. That's about 35 miles north of Los Angeles, Santa Clarita, California. The LA County Sheriff moments ago confirming that the shooter is in custody. The young man, they believe, who was behind the shooting and is being treated at the hospital. I want to bring in ABC's Alex Stone, who is on the scene for us. Alex, what can you tell us?
David, we've been watching here as students have been coming out in single file lines. They've been led by sheriff's deputies with long guns out, with helmets on, as they bring these students out. I was just talking to a parent who said that he was getting phone calls and texts from his son inside. His son saying that he was at 0 period. He saw the shooter pull out a gun. He was so close that his ears were ringing afterwards. They have since been locked down inside a classroom with a firefighter, he and 7 other students, waiting for the sheriff's department to come in and say that they can come out. We know from officials here in Santa Clarita, 2 of the victims, at least 2, are critically injured right now. They were rushed to a nearby hospital, Henry Mayo Hospital, right down the road. Schools here in Santa Clarita have been locked down. All the schools in this area, as they continue to investigate. Still a very active scene here right now, David.
ABC's Alex Stone on the scene in Santa Clarita, California. You are looking at pictures coming in now of students being led away from that school. For some time, they have been on lockdown inside the school. You can see the emergency presence on the scene. Firefighters had gone from classroom to classroom, and as Alex just reported, 1 firefighter in a classroom keeping students in that classroom until they knew it was safe to allow them to leave. And again, that comes along with the news that they believe the alleged shooter is in custody, being treated at the hospital, as I mentioned a moment ago. And as you heard there from Alex, one of the witnesses describing the shots, his own ears ringing because it was so close to him. And as we have heard all too often here, students texting and calling their parents from inside the school walls. And you heard Alex reference what's called 0 period. That was what I was explaining at the top here. That's an hour before the scheduled school day begins. And during that hour, extracurricular activities. You're looking at live pictures overhead right now as students continue to be led from the scene. Obviously, some very tense moments playing out at Saugus High School. This is, again, 35 miles north of Los Angeles, where students this morning heard gunfire, many of them calling their parents, texting their parents to let them know that they were involved in a school shooting. It is believed that the shooter is a member of the student body. No name has been released as of yet, and certainly not a motive. That's something they'll explore as the day wears on. We do have eyewitnesses from the scene, 2 young teenagers who witnessed all this. Let's listen.
We were standing right outside the library, thankfully by the front steps and like the front big stairs.
Yeah, with a few of our friends. And then we heard what sounded like binders dropping, because that happens,
or a birthday balloon popping.
Especially by the library where it echoes. But then there was still something in our gut that told us that it was wrong.
That doesn't sound exactly like a balloon.
Like, so everyone went quiet. And then we heard two more. And that's when
we're like, this is not okay. Something is wrong. This is not normal.
Yeah.
And then another pause, and 3 more, and that's when
we grabbed our friends and we just ran.
We had no idea where we were going to go. We just knew to get out.
Yeah. And then we ran out the school, and we went right there to Jason's house, and he let us in, and everyone was crying. We were all terrified.
It was surreal.
When did you realize it was a gunshot?
I feel like
I didn't really process it until the set of 3.
The set of 3, when we saw
That's
people
when
running out of the school, because you never think that it's going to happen.
Yeah.
You think that maybe it's just something, your body, it goes into like this self-defense mode where you think that you don't understand what's actually going on.
It felt like we were standing there for like 3 minutes, but it probably was like 5 seconds.
Yeah.
2 teenagers, 2 students from Saugus High School in Santa Clarita, California, bravely talking to one of our reporters at KABC Channel 7 there in Los Angeles. And they describe a scene that we have heard often before of students hearing what they think could be gunfire and standing and waiting until they hear more of it. And that's what they did, and recognized that they needed to go and get to safety, although they explained right there that they weren't sure what that actually meant. They got out of that school, went to a friend's home, they said, across the street from Saugus High School, and these are pictures coming in right now. It just gives you an idea of the sheer scope of the student body there, that they are still evacuating students. Again, the numbers at this hour: 5 victims. All of them students. We are told 2 of them are in critical condition at a nearby hospital, and so is the alleged shooter at the hospital being treated. His condition not yet clear, nor the name nor the motive. I do want to bring in our senior justice correspondent, Pierre Thomas, who covers, unfortunately, these school shootings for us. And Pierre, what are you learning from your sources?
Well, the FBI and ATF are on the scene assisting. What they do in these cases, obviously, they try to locate the shooter, make sure that they can confront them, and, as you see, start to get the students out of the building as quickly as possible. David, one of the things that struck me about conversations with some of the sources this morning, they were discussing how commonplace this is becoming, the notion of people showing up in public places and shooting people. Just this year alone, we had the situation at the Walmart in El Paso, Texas. We had a situation at the bar in Dayton, Ohio, Virginia Beach, public government building shooting. Another situation where at a San Diego synagogue, a situation where in Texas, Odessa, Texas, a man driving around shooting people on the highway. So they know this is a phenomenon. You're seeing the massive response today because authorities, both state, federal and local, are now working together to respond quickly to these situations. And David, you said something that was interesting, that the shooter appears to be someone from the student body. And the Secret Service recently just put out a report just last week talking about school shootings. They looked at 41 cases, and the stats show that the attackers had mental health issues in 80% of the cases. 80% were bullied at the school, 71% had disciplinary issues at the school, and they also found that in 83% of the cases, the attackers had indicated some sense that they might do some sort of act of violence that for whatever reason was not followed up on, David.
All very important information, although we certainly do not know the motive yet in this case. And we have been in this country studying these school shootings. And as Pierre points out, authorities trying to figure out what the common motive often is. Brad Garrett joins us now. And Brad, you've done a significant amount of profiling of these suspects during your career. And when you hear a member of the student body who knew the schedule, knew that this was so-called zero period before the school day would actually start, and showed up and began targeting fellow students.
And it would appear, based on the hour, that maybe this was targeted, that he knew who was there, obviously, at 7-ish at the school. I'll also tell you, David, that the textbook of school shooters is there will be a long record of his behavior. In other words, he's talked about this to somebody. If he used a firearm, where he got the firearm, he may well have talked about that. At age 15, obviously, he's online a lot. There's probably going to be something online about him. So it's going to be a long, long record of his behavior.
All right, Brad Garrett, Pierre Thomas, Alex Stone, our thanks to all of you. Again, Saugus High School, Santa Clarita, California. 5 victims, all students, 2 of them in critical condition. It's believed the alleged shooter is also in custody being treated at a local hospital. We do know there'll be a news conference this afternoon. If we learn more information, we will bring it to you, and we'll have a complete report coming up a little later on ABC's World News Tonight. I'm David Muir.